Good evening at 6 o'clock on Monday, February 20th, 2017. Welcome and thank you for joining us tonight for the English edition of Aura News, where we bring you today's top stories translated into English every weeknight. Today marks the third day of the opposition's protest, and Democratic Party Chairman Luzambasha spoke from the tent where supporters are protesting, declaring that their voice should be heard and that the Prime Minister must give way to establish a technical government. Declaring that there is no turning back, the DP chairman stated that the Democratic Party used all institutional opportunities to explain their decision to boycott Parliament. The Democratic Party and its parliamentary group will develop the parliamentary activity here until our objective for creating a technical government is reached. Parliamentary activity will be shifted here into Freedom Square, together with Albanian citizens, declared the DP chairman, who then paid tribute to February 20th, 1991, when demonstrators overthrew the bust of the dictator Enver Hoxha. The opposition leader said 26 years ago, Albanians rose up against a dictatorship and chose to embrace Europe and modern democracy, and that the Albanian people have gathered again in the square demanding free and honest elections. The Minister of Interior also commented today on the opposition's protest, declaring that the majority's only offer to the opposition is to attend the judicial reform meeting. The minister invited the opposition members to join the judicial reform meeting, saying that Albania will only be better in this way. No one can keep the country, the reform, or the justice system hostage, declared the minister, calling the opposition's protest an effort to obstruct the judicial reform. It is unacceptable that the former ministers of Sali Berisha raise up and ask to come back into power. It is also unacceptable that the opposition in a democratic country raises up to select its opponents. The goal of all that is happening is unacceptable. They are hampering the judicial reform, declared the Minister of Interior. The opposition's protest is ending its third day, and the MP Paloka, the DP parliamentary group chairman, declared that the protest will further escalate until the opposition's request is met. The opposition's protest will continue. The protest is for free and honest elections. Our request is the removal of Edi Rama. There can only be free elections with Rama's removal. The citizens' participation in the protest shows they are united. The protest will further escalate until our request is met. There will be no elections on June 18th if our request is not met. We will use all means until our request is met. The Socialist Movement for Integration should understand that it is now obliged to make a choice. It is necessary for them to hold a stance now. One of the ministers has clearly stated that Rama is prepared to steal votes, not only the opposition's votes, but also the Socialist Movement for Integration votes, declared Paloka. The Democrat MP Flamur Noka also said no election until the opposition's requests are fulfilled, saying the Democratic Party is willing to dialogue with all political parties, including the Socialist Party and the Socialist Movement for Integration, in order to set up a technical government. We have a government now that does not represent the citizens, but criminals. We are determined to continue with our actions until the elections where democratic standards are guaranteed, said Noka. The former Minister of Foreign Affairs stressed that the opposition's protest is fair and the only choice considering the government's failure to reflect, and will fail if it does not continue. Therefore, the former Minister of Foreign Affairs called students to join the protest. Today is the National Day of Remembrance for the Communist Martyrs and Victims, and President Bujar Nishani awarded students and professors who participated in the hunger strike on February 20th, 1991. 723 students and professors who participated in the 1991 hunger strike were awarded with the title of the nation's honor. During the ceremony organized at the president's office, the head of state praised their sacrifice for a democratic Albania, which changed Albania's course of history. For the sake of the ideal, for a better Albania, for a democratic Albania without terror, without divisions, you managed to realize the first democratic elections without killing each other, said Nishani. The president asked them to take on social responsibilities and contribute to the country, saying, "The historic mission of that time is not over yet. Therefore, I invite each of you to continue making efforts to contribute with dignity, showing that same value you shared with your country and society by giving Albania and Albanians a chance to build a future. and also to make sure that our country will not suffer but grow in dignity and prosperity, declared Nishani. Shortly before arriving in Albania, the European Parliament reporter for Albania, Newt Fleckenstein, gave an interview to Deutsche Welle, expressing the necessity to progress with the judicial reform. Mr. Fleckenstein said that the reform can be realized by holding democratic elections, which are the key to opening the accession negotiations. During the interview, he spoke of the threefold aim for his visit to Tirana. First, the European Parliament has approved the resolution for Albania, stressing the importance of discussing the EP proposals with all stakeholders involved, such as civil society and also politicians. Secondly, the concrete implementation of the justice reform, which is crucial for the country in order to start the membership talks in autumn. And thirdly, the visit is related to the expectations of the elections. In this context, Mr. Fleckenstein said he will convey the ODHIR recommendations, saying the judicial reform cannot be implemented if there are no democratic elections. This would be a sign that Albania is not ready to start accession talks for the EU membership. It is important not to have candidates with criminal records on the lists. It is also important that the votes are not bought. I know there is drug money, but this money must not be used for such things, said Fleckenstein. Commenting on the DP's protest for free and fair elections, the EP reporter says that any opposition is always fearful before elections. Mr. Fleckenstein started a 3-day official visit to Tirana today, and it would appear the protest and its request will be the focus of his meetings. Prosecutor General Adriatic Lala attended the annual analysis of Shkodra's prosecution office today, where he declared that prosecutors' decisions must be based only on the law, and that vetting cannot be used as leverage to influence the prosecution's decision-making. The vetting process should not be used to dictate the prosecutor's decisions. Prosecutors should keep responsibility for their decisions. Inspections will continue to be made by the Prosecution General until the Supreme Prosecution Council is set up. All prosecutors should inform the Prosecutor General about criminal cases during this period. There are higher numbers of dereliction of duty proceedings. Criminal cases are having a low rate of discovery. State employees are abusing their power. Further investigation of corruption at the Tax and Customs Directorate is needed, said Lala, who added that narcotics production and trafficking remains a problem, asking for more cooperation between institutions in order to bring those who violate the law before justice. The meeting with Shkodra's prosecutors continued behind closed doors. The annual analysis of the prosecution in other cities will be made in the coming days. That's all for our English edition this evening. Please join us again Monday through Saturday at 6 p.m. for your local news in English. My name is Mari, and on behalf of Aura News, thank you and good night.